Hey everybody, welcome back to the Huddle, the Review.com's weekly sports show. I'm Executive Editor Rob Toder of the Alliance Review, joined as always by Mike Brown, our sports editor. And today we're going to talk about wrestling. And the regular season, believe it or not, is quickly coming to a close. Regular season matches this week in the Northeastern Buckeye Conference will finish things up. And we're going to touch on those and a little bit about next week's sectional wrestling tournaments. But first, Mike, let's go back to last week. A couple really good matches. Marlington knocking off Alliance in a rematch of their state dual meet tournament event of the week prior, and also West Branch going to Minerva and coming up with a big win.
Right, yeah. Marlington's done a great job. I think head coach Kurt Hamilton's brought that team around, and I think they're going to be a factor in the West Branch sectional district in a couple of weeks because they've got some young guys kind of flying under the radar who I think people might not know right now, but I think they're going to find out how good of wrestlers they are. And then, Rob, I took in and covered the West Branch Minerva match last week. What a great atmosphere. It was a large crowd down at Minerva, two great teams, and it really came down to the last couple matches. I mean, those teams are that evenly matched. And Chad Hilliard, the new head coach at Minerva, has done a good job down there this year. And not to say that Jason Brown has. He's done probably the best job of anybody at West Branch. I mean, you step into a program that had won 6 straight NBC titles, and your job is to win that 7th one. And he's done that. He's done a great job with them, and they're going to be they'll be a factor in the sectional district coming. That's going to be a good sectional district coming up too.
Yeah, let's talk about that in a little bit.
Yeah.
This week we've got West Branch and Marlington going at it. West Branch can win the NBC title outright with a win, and also Alliance taking on Louisville. How do you see those matches coming out?
Well, the West Branch Marlington match is out at West Branch. West Branch has had the better with Marlington, but I'll tell you what. Like I said, you can't count Marlington out because that's a different team than early in the year because that young team has come around and they're wrestling very well. And he really doesn't have any holes in that lineup. And, they're doing a good job. West Branch, I think, Jason Brown, like I said before, has done a fantastic job. I think he's got them peaking at just the right time. They've got 3 or 4 kids in that lineup that could make it to the state tournament. And there's some really good storylines with West Branch. Logan Sharp, the 220. I mean, this is a fantastic story. He couldn't beat his brother. I mean, they had great matches in the wrestling room to see who would get the varsity slot at 285, and he could never beat his brother. He would come really close, but he couldn't beat him. I mean, obviously, the kid finished 3rd in the state last year, so it's tough to beat a guy like that. So what Logan did is drop 70 pounds to get down to 220, and now he's being forecast as one of the favorites to go to state at 220. So we could have the Sharp brothers in a few weeks going to state together, which would be a great story. And they've got some other nice wrestlers at West Branch too, so that's going to be a real good match Thursday night. It's always a big crowd there. It's a lot of fun, good rivalry, and it's the kind of thing you want to be a part of.
Yeah. Well, if nothing else, Logan Sharp could show me a few things on losing some weight. It can never hurt to do
me
that.
Me too.
Yeah, there you go. The state dual meet tournament for area teams is done. West Branch, Waterloo, and Minerva all lost last week. But as that advances, where do we see? I mean, you've had a second week to look at it. Like, where do you see improvements can be made? Just from a logistic standpoint, I think.
Right, Rob. I think they're going to have to look at the distance. I mean, I think that's a killer. I mean, now for some area teams, it wasn't that big a problem because, like, now Alliance and Minerva and Marlington had to go to Carroll, which wasn't too bad. But for West Branch to drive an hour and 45 minutes to wrestle a team, there's something wrong with that. Now, hopefully they'll tweak that in future years. I don't know what else you could do as far as the format outside of the distance. I kind of think the seeding process could maybe be a little bit better too because you had teams like West Branch who almost knocked off the #1 seed. They came within a point of beating Lake County Perry at Lake County Perry, and Perry's the #1 seed, and West Branch was the #4 seed. And I look at teams that were above West Branch, and I thought to myself when those came out, they would beat those other teams. I'm not so sure about Lake County Perry, even though they almost pulled that off too. So I think maybe that's something they can take a look at too, the seeding process too, and how they seed teams. I mean, there's a couple things to be worked out, but like I said, we've got it for 4 more years because they signed on for 5 years with this. And I think there's a lot of good to come of it. They just need to work with some things and tweak some things.
The 2 things that stood out to me, there were a lot of schools that ended up not even sending a team after they had signed up for it in the preseason, and I think that's got to be tightened up a little bit. But also, I think the West Branch situation kind of played itself out. where they had the state dual meet event on Wednesday, and then it had that huge NBC meet with Minerva on Thursday.
Yeah.
And I know we talked a lot in advance of that. Does West Branch send their best guys and maybe risk injury or wearing them out for a state meet on Wednesday when you've got the dual meet, the NBC meet on Thursday?
Right.
That probably means a little bit more at this point until the prestige of that NBC or the state dual meet tournament grows a little bit. So there's a lot of logistical questions. I think they might want to look at what day they're actually going to hold these events.
Right.
And I know Wednesday's probably maybe the best because it doesn't really interfere with girls basketball or boys basketball, but I think there's some logistical things they've got to get straightened out, and I'm sure they probably will. And I think it's a great concept. I think it's just tweaking it a little bit to make it even better. So next week we'll have the sectional at West Branch. You were talking earlier about how strong that field is going to be. Just kind of touch on that real quickly.
Fantastic. You know, I'm reading online, and I agree with this, that sectional has probably gone from one of the weakest to the best that feeds the Alliance District, the former Firestone District where Alliance now hosts. When you look at that sectional this year, you've got Warren Howland, you've got West Branch, you've got Canfield, you've got Crestwood, you've got Field, who has a good team this year, you have Marlington, who's got great tradition, Louisville's got great tradition. I mean, it goes on and on and on. That is a fantastic sectional. And if you get out of the West Branch sectional this year, you've got a shot to do something at the Alliance District.
Yeah, absolutely. So make sure you check the review throughout the week. We'll have coverage of all the big matches in Friday's paper. And, of course, we'll have this video and more videos from around action over the week on the review.com. So check us out. If you see us at a match, stop by and say hello. We're always interested in talking to our fans.